Hey everyone, this is Faisal Khan here with Brian Romley for another edition of Around the Coin. Mike Townsend couldn't be with us, he is on a plane somewhere. Brian, Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year, Faisal. Absolutely amazing to be here today. The first
How do you
day of
how do you feel about
2017.
how do you feel about 2017? I'm
Uh,
pumped.
I'm pumped. I'm the most optimistic I have ever been coming into a new year because there is so much that's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, anybody listening, let's just dust off this pessimism. There's never a time that one should be pessimistic. And optimism is not painting gold on a turd. Optimism is seeing the greatness in humanity. And I think we're going to see some greatness in 2017.
You almost made me quote John F. Kennedy, let us begin anew.
That's exactly what it is. You know, I think about that speech that Kennedy gave, and it really, really a great way to look at this. You know, the world is changing faster. You know, in my view, the world is going to change in 2017 faster than it did in the last 8 years. Everything that we thought in technology, we thought we understood, is going to radically change in 2017. And
I agree.
this rate of change is going to keep, don't feel like you're the only one. I'm telling everybody, this rate of change is going to keep everybody off balance. It's going to keep everybody guessing. And all of those people you think are gods and goddesses of knowing what's going to happen and all this, they're just as surprised as anybody else because
Well, I think
nobody's predicting
2016
this.
was a testament to that. You know, if you think
Oh my gosh.
the popular opinion was the de facto standard and the de facto answer, turns out in many ways it wasn't, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, anybody that's subscribing to the notion of true disruption, and that means the true rate of change where something is coming out of nowhere, needs to understand that that is what took place in 2016. Whether we like the outcome of that or not, disruption took place, and that's going to happen in a much more accelerated pattern in 2017. What was up is down, what was left is right, what is center is inverted. Everything is going to happen in this year and moving forward. It's not just this year. It's the convergence of technology. It's the convergence of access to knowledge. It's the world getting smarter, not dumber, getting more informed. There's going to be upsides and downsides to these growing pains for humanity, but I think it's a great path.
So it is what it is.
So how was 2016 in a nutshell? I'll surprise you
Well,
with a little question. Was it
I mean, twenty
for
sixteen
you?
to me was fantastic, phenomenal. I visited in total 21 cities.
You blow me away, man. That
I
world
met,
traveler.
well, I met literally hundreds, I wouldn't say thousands, but hundreds of people. Many became good friends. Many people I've known for a long, long time, had never seen face to face, got to sit down with them, have a coffee, have a chat, have dinners, have drinks, basically bond and get to understand their viewpoint, their markets, the way they are, looking at things and what they're pessimistic about, what they're optimistic about, what they're cautious about, etc. So it was a great perspective just traveling, and I think someone asked me, well, what's your thing what's your resolution, if you will, for 2017?
Let's not go forward yet. I
No,
freeze
no,
on.
no, no.
Freeze on 2016. This idea of traveling and this new perspective. Just freeze on that for a moment. Give us some wisdom because you talk at pre-show a lot of wisdom about this, and I think we got to surface that. Tell me what you learned.
So I've learned, that there is so much more in just sitting face to face across someone, doing the physical handshake, than you will ever accomplish all your life, exchanging emails, doing video chats, Skype chats, etc. There is just so much more. The second thing I learned is, innovation, aspiring to become someone, problem solving is not just regulated to the West. There are people, there are entrepreneurs who are thinking on a global scale. I really mean that, on a global scale rather than a regional scale or a national scale. And they are very quietly tackling problems that would put many, companies, startups, and off Sandhill Road to shame. And I was really blown away at the fact that they are based in no-name towns in South Asia, in the in Africa, in some parts of the GCC, etc. But they are literally tackling problems, and I think their time will come. The spotlight will come on them, and they're working on it. It's tough. It is very tough. They have access, issues with visas, they have issues with traveling, they have issues with access to funding and so forth, but they are persistent, they are determined, and that was the big blow away. I mean, that was the big takeaway for me, that don't assume or don't be judgmental of people as to the geography that they may be associated with. Don't
So
be,
true.
and even more so, if I can be a little bold and say, also the pigment of the skin. So
Oh
it
yeah.
really matters, that you understand that there are people of all kinds in the world. Just because they are from a country that's whose name you cannot pronounce, don't you know don't give them the typical thing. Don't be judgmental. They'll surprise you in many ways. So that was the biggest takeaway that I got from 2016.
Beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah. So the 2017 resolution is very simple: do more good, read more books, and travel.
I
Very
love it.
simple.
I love
Just
it.
do more good, read more books, and travel. I think that would probably sum it up for me. But how about you? What are your resolutions for 2017?
Well, gosh, I mean, I could go on for a whole show with what I'm going to resolve to do. Um, but I think we're put here to do one primary thing, and that is to express love in every possible way that we can. And I don't want to sound new agey or hippie or anything like that. The bottom line of everything that drives every human being, unbeknownst to them or beknownst to them, is love. And I hope that in 2017, I can express that more, and maybe the rest of the world can express that. And it resonates to what you've said, Faisal, in the fact that, when we unleash the creativity of humanity in all parts of the world, all pockets of the world, in all shades and colors, in all shapes, in all sizes, in all geographies, humanity, us, all of us, are going to be much more profoundly powerful. And I believe that we have the tools at foot that can start that. Finally, getting to the point where I think everybody's going to have access to that. Coming along at the same time is going to be the old ways, the dogmas that used to create our tribes. We're all going to have our tribes. This is important. But these tribes that are, falsely being put together for maybe the last 10,000 years, that divide us rather than allow us to think as one species. I think we're going to overcome that with this technology, or that technology is going to overcome us. And it probably won't show up in 2017, but in the next 2 or 3 decades, it'll start showing up. So I'm going to resolve to help move that a little bit forward. Yes, I'm going to read a lot more. I'm using Siri and Alexa to do that, some of my own voice concoctions. I have, at any given time, at my fingertips, between 20 and 25 books in a week that I try to attack. Most of them are going to be read to me through AirPods. And so don't look at me as being some phenomenal speed reader. I am. I did take the Evelyn Wood speed reading course when I was a young teenager, and I got up to I don't even remember what number, but it was an unbelievable number. I don't do that as often. I will do that on books that I that are technical, and I need to get a very basic, quick understanding. Especially when something new comes out, I'll devour 5 or 6 books and speed read and such. So I'm going to do more reading. I'm going to try to surface more people who I think the world needs to know about, who may or may not be involved in tech, who are the examples of what I think we humans can be. And if one person can do it, another person can do it. I think that's what I think 2017 should be about. And try to just continue to be happy and healthy and grow old wisely. So,
Amen to that, sir, and good on you.
yeah, it's going to be a
So
fun time.
we decided that we will do a show as much as people may roll their eyes, but it is interesting nonetheless. We will talk about the 5 things that you and I think will be happening in the payments and banking world and the fintech world this year, 2017. So, without any further ado, let's have the drum roll. So, Brian, you first.
Me first. All right, so we'll alternate. You do one, I do one.
Okay.
All right. My first prediction of 2017 is that we're going to see a tremendous increase in voice interfaces everywhere, not just on our devices, but in standalone devices and in places and on things we couldn't possibly have realized. Some of this is going to be coming forth in what was Viv, now a Samsung product. Some of it will be coming forth through companies like IBM and Microsoft, Salesforce, Oracle, companies we normally don't associate as device or technology in this realm companies. So that's going to be, and this is not in order, by the way. So all of these are going to be equal. I'm just leading with voice because I've been leading with voice in 2016. So you're going to be talking to things a lot more. They're going to be talking back, and it's going to be more of a dialogue and maybe even a conversation than it is going to be a command and control or a question or an answer. So get ready for that. And it's not going to be as scary. It's not going to be as hard as some people think. You're not going to be seeing thousands of people screaming into their devices walking down the street, otherwise known as talking on a phone. Yeah, you might actually see people talking into AirPods rather than being hunched over, sending a text message or Snapchatting or Facebooking. So they might be talking to Facebook. They might be talking to Snapchat, and we might see a new modality. How about you, sir?
So I would agree on that. So that's one thing we have in common. I think I'm not going to say, I will refrain from using the word voice commerce, and I will just say voice interactions will go high. I think we'll become more complacent, comfortable with them as we
Yes.
go along. I think right now we may find it a little bit hard to interact and do exactly what we want, but as the proliferation of these devices and the technologies embedded within the apps, for example, like Facebook, etc., become more common to us, I think the processing power is definitely there. And I think that we will be able to interact and do very normal tasks with voice rather than, hitting the keyboard, hitting some clicks, typing something in, etc. Something as simple as log me into Facebook. That is an authentication where your voice is taken and it'll log you into Facebook, and it may ask you for one of the 10 random, I don't know, sentences it may ask you to do, in case you're on a different device or something like that.
Sure.
So I think that will definitely take care. More voice interaction. So we are good with that. I mean, with the likes of, let's say, Messenger, Skype, Siri, Alexa, Google, Facebook, particularly Google.
Yeah.
I see a lot of interaction with Google. If I tell my Siri, Siri open Skype, it'll actually open Skype, but that's all it can do. It can't do anything more. So I think the cross interaction between apps is going to really increase somehow, where I'll be able to say, hey, Siri, open Skype and dial Brian Romley on Skype, so it'll know what to do, So I think that's the next level that I'm looking at, and let's see how it goes.
I agree. I'll extend it one further in saying that continuity is going to be the thing that really makes this happen. And we're going to be seeing a new Siri coming out by mid-year in 2017, probably by WWDC in June. And it's going to feature the technology from the folks up in Cambridge, from a company called Vocal IQ. Vocal IQ's technology is phenomenal. It is a self-learning continuity system. And of course, I talked about Viv. So absolutely. But Faisal, I'm going to ask you, would you like to be able to talk to your washer machine or dryer? Do you see that as an easier interface than meddling with all the buttons and adjustments?
I actually laugh when people tell me that, and I tell them, listen, buddy, labor in this part of the world is so cheap. I actually have someone who does it for me. So I don't know if I've ever.
Oh
I
my
wouldn't
God.
even know. I wouldn't even know how to start the washer and the dryer machine in my house.
You,
To be
you live
very
a, you
honest.
live a charmed life, mister. I
Yeah,
tell you.
I think I do. I think I do. So, but let's say not the washing machine, but certainly the computer, which is where I'm sitting all day long. I'd
Yeah.
like to get my things to do, my small tasks are easy, but the apps part is what I'm missing, and that's what I would really, really like. I don't think I'm ready for devices other than the basic power. Shut the lights off and shut the lights on.
How about reading back? I mean, I should give out one of my secrets. I don't know if you've done it. Do you do the two swipe down on your iPhone?
I don't know what you mean by that. Two swipe
Okay,
down.
I'm going to give everybody something that will, I hope, really help them this year in 2017. Okay, so you want to go to hopefully you have an iOS device because this is
Yes, I
the only
do.
one I can do right now because you can do it on Android.
Brian, the world needs to see you on video. You need to get on front of the camera and
You're
do
you're
this thing.
you're asking me to take a shower on a Sunday morning. All right, so here's the deal. iOS, you go to settings,
Yeah.
then and follow along with me. Go to general,
Okay.
then go to accessibility,
Okay.
go to speech,
Okay. Hold on. So settings,
general,
general,
accessibility,
accessibility. Yeah.
go to speech,
Yep. There.
go to speak screen.
Got it.
Now,
Ah.
when you swipe two fingers down, any Kindle book or anything that's on a screen will be read to you very nicely by Siri. So if you happen to have a Kindle book, the thing can actually go to sleep and it'll read your Kindle book for as long as that Kindle book has. And you can leave it on in the background. You can multitask. And let me tell you, this there's this lie that's like a virus that people believe that you have to give 100% of your attention to reading a book. This is a lie. Let it go on in the background. You don't need to absorb everything in a book the first time around. I'm a firm
Well,
believer.
your subconscious is already accepting it, right?
There's, of course, of course. So, other than when I'm on the radio and talking on the phone, there's always something going on in the background. So, I'm always got a book going. I've always got, and I'm not doing the news. Forget about the freaking news. All right. You want to know something? It's not going to probably impact your life anyway. So, get about learning how to make yourself better and stronger. And if there's an emergency, something happened down the street, yeah. But these big things, stop getting upset over it. Stop getting mad and stop trying to judge and comment and all this other stuff. Yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot, but hopefully I'm trying to give people ideas to think about. So you want to do that. And I'm telling you, it is probably the most powerful feature of an iPhone
Cool.
or an iOS device.
We'll test it out, sir.
So
Next
that's my
prediction.
gift.
Moving on. Next one. Number two.
All right, I'm going to jump around. Well, no, it's related. AI everywhere. Okay. Since the birth of artificial intelligence in the 1950s, the idea of cybernetics, when you really study the history of this, it's been a dream that, and voice is going to obviously integrate with this. And so voice is really, when I say voice interfaces, I'm really talking about voice mediated AI. But I got to give AI its own little place in all this. What AI is going to do is going to allow us to look at what the internet experience and what our app experience and what our device experience has been and start changing that to the point where we're not going to be insulted with commands that we don't ever use. We're not going to be insulted with features that we don't care about. And what's going to surface up through the machine learning and artificial intelligence is the stuff that we like. So apps are going to become more morphed to what we want that experience to be like. And this is something that very few people are understanding. I will tell you that very few people in the tech industry even understand what I'm talking about right now. But there's a lot of startups, stealth startups, that you'll start seeing surfacing in 2017 that are specializing in this custom tailoring of apps, tailoring of experiences.
When I go to Netflix and Netflix suggests something for me, is that AI?
That is the beginning of some AI. The problem with the type of AI is it's not really fully building neurons. A neuron is a form of personal, long-term memory of what your experience really is, right? So the problem with some of the AI that's being used at Amazon and Netflix is it doesn't have continuity with the past. So it might come back around and recommend the same junk to you that you didn't respond to before. And the AI is going to start looking at what you're responding and highly, highly constraining the things that you like, showing you the things that you like, but also finding ways to surprise you through serendipity. AI is not just about giving you what you want.
Quick question. So would it be direct? I mean, meaning as a consumer, would I be interacting with it, or would it be something behind the scenes that's happening between the app and, the OEM or something? Or is it going to be forward facing, or is it going to be back office?
When I was a kid, there was a commercial of it was usually some kind of cosmetologist, some hairdresser, and she was doing the nails of this lady, and she goes, "Oh, I want my hands to be more soft." And he goes, "Well, I have this new soap, and what's this soap? It's you're soaking in it now." So what that really commercial was is the soap was so soft it made your hands soft, right? The AI is so prevalent, you're already using it. If you're using an iOS device, you've been using AI for the better part of 5 years. Apple's been very low key about it. The word suggestion is AI. The app suggestion is AI. Obviously, Siri is AI. How you use Safari is mediated by AI. A lot of this stuff is already at play. If you used Amazon, you're definitely using a medium form of AI, maybe a little crude than what Apple is using right now, and certainly at Netflix to a certain degree. But it's going to become more obvious because of how profoundly powerful it is. And then there's, in existing things, but there will be direct AI. I'm calling it your personal agent and personal assistant. And we will own one of these things in the next 3 years. Some of us in 2017 will definitely own it, but probably not most of us. And this will become our artificial intelligence doppelganger, if you will.
So that's your prediction number 2 is AI. My prediction number 2 goes to something I'm very passionate about. It is the KYC.
Oh, yeah.
I feel in 2017 we will see a more defined template for KYC for onboarding customers and clients all over the world. We'll see better interaction between national identity systems between countries. The system is broken. It's broken. I think we've talked about it. It was invented in 1919 when the World War I had just ended and so forth. But I feel that the new KYC, and there are quite a few companies working on, how to get better identity, how to implement social signals, how to implement, time-validated stamps into your identity definition and verification. I think we'll see some of those companies, surface up and announce themselves. So that's my prediction number 2.
Faisal, are we talking blockchain, you think, or are we talking some other technology?
No. Well, blockchain is different. I mean, how you implement it or where you implement it on is something different. But basically,
do you think it would probably be blockchain? Does it make sense at this point in some way?
Could be, but I'm not sure if it might be a variant of blockchain where something would have to do, but it's not very clear. It is federated identity management, but how it's going to be federated, that's still open to discussion.
I got to ask you, and I didn't have time because we had not too many shows over the last few weeks. What do you think about what's going on in India right now? with identity and obviously the currency
So I
too.
mean, that's happening. We'll discuss this, but let's
Okay,
get
okay.
the.
So do you think that's the beginning of it, or do you think that's the bad
I
example?
think it's definitely the beginning of it.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. So number three, Brian.
All right. As my old voice in the back goes, I would say that we will see the surfacing of augmented reality. This is much different than virtual reality. The beginnings of that already started. AirPods are a form
So
of
define
augmented
define
reality.
define the difference between augmented and virtual.
Absolutely. Augmented reality is allowing you to exist in your current state of affairs in the real world. You see what you normally will see, you hear what you normally would hear. There's just an overlay put on top of it. So
So
augmented reality,
Google glasses were augmented reality.
not quite. Not quite. They were the beginnings of it. The problem with Google Glass was that it was overlaying in a way. Well, I would say it was a crude version of augmented reality, but not the way I'm talking about it. I'll define it more. So the very first augmented reality that most people are going to be experiencing, they've probably already have, and that is a voice. And everybody seems to throw voice out of the bathwater with the baby on augmented reality, but it is the fundamental augmented reality. And again, we covered that, but we'll see that with AirPods. AirPods are now the most successful launch of an Apple product in history. This is by Apple's own definition. It sold out, and it wasn't just a token amount of AirPods that were made. Quite a few million were made. It definitely beats the first sales of the iPhones, and it not in dollar volume. I'm just talking about in demand. Dollar volume will come. So that's starting. We'll see that coming more in 2017. The visual augmented reality will start surfacing also, again, probably with Apple. We're going to be seeing an augmented reality device that you look through, that you hold up, that perhaps you could mount to your face if you desired, but you would more likely hold in your hand, and it will be more of a camera view of the world through augmented reality. Now, a couple of different ways this is going to be achieved. One is actually going to be a camera with a screen. The other will actually be a transparent screen made out of transparent ceramic. Yeah, or transparent aluminum. Actually, I've made the quest that the next iPhone is going to be made of ceramic. That's one of the ways it's going to be. So transparency will allow you to overlay upon your world different things. Now, obviously, we already see this with Pokemon Go and gaming. We're going to be seeing it in a lot of other very, very useful ways. Visual augmented reality. Virtual reality is where you're taking the actual real world and you're being cut off from it, and you're creating nothing but artificial reality inside of there. You're interacting with avatars. You're not really overlaying upon the world, and the amount of horsepower you need from a processing standpoint is quite tremendous to make this useful. You really kind of have a backpack to make it work. Cell phones really don't do the job to the level that they should, where you put them in the front of these things, and it's make most people nauseous after a few
I mean,
hours of
words
use.
virtual reality we know. So it was great that you gave a comparison to. So you think augmented reality is something we'll see more in 2017?
Probably pretty much moving forward. I don't think the virtual reality thing will ever be more than, I don't want to say a token, but it's going to be a subset. Gamers, obviously.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
that
pornography,
goes without
obviously.
saying.
You know, um, there are a few other use cases, but you're not going to see a mass adoption of this. People walking down the street with these things on in any high degree. The same reason why you didn't see them walk down the street with Google Glass, even if you paid them to do it. But the same reason why you do see them walking down the street with spectacles. There's going to be a sort of comeuppance to, let's just say, people who are engineering things not being in touch with the reality of what people are really like. Let's put it
Okay.
that way.
So my number three is Bitcoin. I think
Oh,
we will see a greater adoption of Bitcoin than we have in the past. More people will use it. I think more volume on the exchanges, more acceptance, more trade, more buy and sell, more exchanging of it. But this also means that I think the regulations concerning Bitcoin as a currency or a cryptocurrency or value storage mechanism would also come into light. So I think we'll see some regulators, draft some laws that will bring Bitcoin into the mainstream law, the main net of the law. But definitely the portion of acceptance, I feel that we're at the price point now there where everyone from the cab driver to the elevator operator, everyone will sort of get in. There'll be a maybe a second bubble, I don't know, but the mechanics are there. Everything right now is pointing in that direction. There, where it's becoming a household word almost at the dinner table. Hey, what's Bitcoin and how can I use it? Or should I invest in it, etc., etc. So I think 2017 will definitely see more traction for Bitcoin. And by traction, I mean, let's take away the speculators, but I see at least more people using it. So that's my prediction. So, Brian,
Very good.
prediction.
Well, I got to extrapolate on that Bitcoin thing. We talked about it, I think, this time last year. I think my prediction was Bitcoin would be back near 900. As
Yep.
we speak, I think Bitcoin is officially not using the Mt. Gox. Well, let's say Mt. Gox numbers from the early days are a little bit inflated. Not using the Mt. Gox, but some of the other standards. We're now at an all-time high for Bitcoin. Officially, I think we're just today we're above the $1,000 conversion mark of Bitcoin to US dollars on most exchanges. I can tell you this: anybody that followed the advice that I gave, I think I might have gave it on a show, but I definitely gave it privately to buy Bitcoin as much as you can, are very happy right now. I have one individual who's a good friend of mine from high school, not even slightly involved in the tech industry, asked me, what should I invest in? I said, listen, don't get mad at me. It doesn't happen this year, but buy Bitcoin every month as much as you can. This is right after the quote unquote peak of 1,200 Bitcoin. And originally he started in 2014. And let's just say right now he's putting almost 2 children through college on his Bitcoin investment. What he did is he captivated at $1,000 investment a month, and he never stopped. I never really talked to him. I would have told him probably, no, at the bottom, he doubled down at the bottom. He really went crazy.
He must be a very happy camper by now.
He's very happy. And I got to say, it's not over. If you buy into the game theory and the mathematics behind Bitcoin 10,000 is definitely a reachable thing. I'm not going to say that's next year, but I'm going to tell you that the growth in Bitcoin in 2017 will be more rapid and more pervasive than it was in 2016. So don't say you missed anything. Fractions of Bitcoin are just as fractal as full Bitcoins.
I am sure that same argument was used when Berkshire Hathaway was $800 a share.
It's too expensive, Faisal.
Yeah,
Come on.
Exactly. And for those of you who don't know what the share value is, it is over $100,000, or maybe 200,000. I don't even know.
I lost track. I bought in, but yeah, I don't look at it.
So Bitcoin was my number 3. Number 4, Brian. What's your number 4 prediction?
IPOs, rational IPOs are going to start coming back in 2017 because the free money, the zero interest money that was fueling some of the crazy IPOs of the last 2 years and some of the crazy startup notions and some of the really non-disciplined business ideas that are in current public companies, that's all going away. Rational money is going to start coming into the market, and the IPOs are going to allow average human beings to participate. My prediction is Snap is going to be the best IPO of 2017 and possibly the best IPO of the last 5 years. So, and I have no direct interest at this point in Snap. That might change in 2017 in a number of different ways. That's all I'm going to say. But yes, I am biased. I love Snap.
So,
I love Evan.
That almost sounds like a buy recommendation on Snap, right?
Listen, you would really be mad at me if I didn't give you a buy recommendation on Google, on Facebook, on LinkedIn.
Yes,
You
sir.
know,
I
right?
would be.
So anybody hearing my voice, it doesn't matter. Don't care about IPO day. It doesn't matter, right?
No, it
IPO
matters in the
day.
long run. It
Yeah.
matters in the long run. If
What
you
I'm
think
trying to.
that,
This is an evergreen company. It's going to be around a long time. I can't say that about some of the companies that IPO'd in 2015 and 2016. I got to be really frank, because on the other side of that IPO expansion is going to be a very large consolidation. We're going to see acquisitions of some proud, royalty of the startup community. We're going to see some mergers and acquisitions taking place. We're going to see a normalization in this IPO market, and I think it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be a great time. How about you, Faisal? What do you see?
so you're thinking the Bulls will be back, huh?
Yes, but in a rational way. I really think
I
so.
love the way that you put that word in rational, you know?
Yeah, it was irrational.
So my prediction number 4 is I think more players will come in the real time transfer, real time payments, especially cross border. So right now, transfers do take a couple of days. Some of them are done maybe overnight. Some are done maybe after a couple of hours. But I feel there are enough players coming in who will now be doing real time transfers. So if you want to send money
Wow.
from I don't know, Seattle to I don't know, Manila, and you want to send, $300, 10 seconds later, it's there. So I think that we have come to that point where the payment rails will be able to support it, and it will be rolled out to the consumers. And not just real time payments across the border, but also including small value transfers. So being able to send $3 across the world without having to pay $25 to do so. So I think these two predictions, I am very confident will come out. Needless to say, I do have some insights to it, insights. But that's why I'm very confident about it. So real-time payments and small value transfers will be a reality in 2017.
Now, do you think that this is going to overcome the political challenges? Do you really see that as a problem, or do you see that as a solution that tech could wind up solving?
It's a hard one to say. I mean, the political challenges are always there, but I feel that even with, let's say, politically friendly countries, allies, etc., the real time payments across the border are still not possible. I mean, fine, you may be able to transfer value, but the redemption of that value is still subject to further settlement. That still takes time. So I think with the likes of companies that are coming out, I was almost going to say the name. Oh my god! But
Ah,
but anyways, with some of the companies coming out, I think that model will be replicated, duplicated, implemented, and everyone, because it'll, you just set a higher benchmark, and else will have to follow, else they'll be left behind. So I think it's going to happen. I think politics is not going to be an issue here.
really? That is
Yeah,
good to know. That is good to know.
yeah. So, Brian, last prediction, number 5 for you.
Well, I kind of alluded to it, but I think I think it goes in general with the IPO market. I think we're going to see a general rising of economic activity around the world. I think that would have came about no matter what the political landscape was. One could argue that this political landscape currently may accelerate or deaccelerate it. I'll say let's regroup this time in 2018 and look back on what it did. I will tell you this, that everything in technology, in food, I think we're going to see a lot of growth in food and transportation, obviously self-driving cars, things like that. All of this is going to lead to an Amazon Go stores and technology and retail. I think some of these things are all going to contribute to a general and local manufacturing. All of this is going to generally contribute to a rising of the economic tides. You know, if you believe what the
Especially
pundits say
after,
on
especially after 20th of January, right?
Well, yes, some of that is because
Let's
of the,
get let's get the elephant out of the room. Out of the room.
yeah, I mean, some of it is because the political winds are changing and you have a choice in the world. Either you go in the direction of the wind or you don't, right? So if the political winds are changing, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to see a rise in localization. And I believe that one can find a really good excuse if you want to make that excuse, or a really good foundation on why that's an important and valuable shift. There's no reason why, if something could be made reasonably 1,000 miles from your home, there's no reason why it needs to fly 9,000 miles. It's physics. Physics will start playing a big role in 2017. And if you really care about the economy and you care about the ecology, you're going to start questioning whether or not it makes sense to burn so much fuel to move something 9,000 miles when you can move it 500 or 1,000 miles. And this is going to be true about food. It's going to be very true about small and medium-sized manufacturing. It's going to be true about a lot of things. I believe we're going to see a renaissance of creativity that will come from this. Does it mean we're going to be having more blue-collar, quote-unquote, workers? No, well, this is ridiculous. This is the stuff that pundits with bow ties on TV talk about. What's going to happen is people are going to apply technology. They're going to apply robotic manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and they're going to be building this stuff locally, and they're going to do it at a price that people thought you can't do it without, let's call it, well, I'm going to use a nice term. Well, it's not a political will thing. It was this idea that we can exploit.
It certainly is a catalyst to it, right?
Well, there is this idea that we can exploit one group of people who are willing to get paid less to enrich another group of people who are willing to pay less for maybe sometimes inferior products. You know, if you take a big step back, and I'm not going to get into the fight of globalism, localism, have at it, guys, whatever. I'm just going to tell you rationality. And I'm going to go from a scientific standpoint. Physics will always win. All of these guys from their ivory towers, they can claim all these different things of political might and all these things about helping. But when you take an exploited class of individuals and exploiting, you can use whatever terminology you want to define that under. These are people who could get paid more but are getting paid less to produce something. We're going to find that that probably was a bit of a fallacy, because we all paid a deep economic price for this in a lot of different ways. It did not help the exploited class. It did not help the country. It did not help the climate. It did not help the ecology. It did not help the psychology, and it did not help the local macro and micro economy in anybody's world. So I think we're going to start seeing that, whether or not we want to put it on top of one person or not. And what they said, maybe they just saw the change in the wind and they tacked their boat and the vote in that direction. Maybe that's what they saw. I don't know. We'll see better in 2018, I'll tell you that. But I can say this. I've seen this trend. I've been working with small businesses for over 35 years. And I've seen the rise and fall of this. And I've seen what these people have been saying to me. And they've never, well, let's put it this way. They've never ceased to surprise me. And I've become humbled by it. Because every time I thought I understood the will of the mass of creative, entrepreneurial individuals, I've been humbled. And over the last 3 years, Faisal, I've been humbled because they telegraphed to me this idea about local. Let's talk about food, for example, real quickly. Farm to table. This idea that you need some big agricultural company to build massive fields somewhere and these big factories that are ungodly to look at, flesh factories putting out your food. You know, we're going to start coming face to face with the reality of what that did to us on a many, many different levels. And I think some entrepreneurs, and not just new age hippies, but real people that have practical sense, started saying, you know something? I like the idea that my tomatoes came from 25 miles down the road. And I eat tomatoes when they're in season, and I eat squash when it's in season. And yeah, maybe I'll get bananas when they're out of season, or maybe my bananas are grown inside a hothouse that's inside of an old building that's outside of Detroit. Maybe I might do urban farming. So we're going to start learning this. And I'll tell you what it's going to do. It's going to give people self-sufficiency. And I think the watchword in 2017, and anybody following us, let's learn all how to become more self-sufficient.
I think we are almost like coming like a full circle, right?
I believe so, but in a good way, technology mediated.
Yeah, of course, in a good way.
We're not going back to sticks and stones, but there is never any logic from just from the physics of it. There is never any logic of mass industrial feeding. There isn't.
So
And their only
more,
logic it
more
was
enhanced, accelerated economic activity is your number five.
on a local level, on a world level. And see the stuff that you're talking about, this cross border, this ability, the Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, the ability for us to help. And this doesn't mean we're not going to be trading with people. There's going to be stuff that's going to be coming out of different regions of the world that are going to be so profoundly better on any degree or exotic that we're going to be willing to pay the physics to get it to us. But something simple, like there's a factory in China that makes all the extension cords. Does that really make sense? Well, they're cheaper, but does that really make sense on the macro scale? No, it doesn't, because at some point, all of that inverts. And we're going to see that in our lifetime. So either you're in front of that or you're behind it, chasing it. When it inverts, it's going to be really ugly. And that's going to be the rising middle class that is going to be demanding more, the disconnect of the disposable economy, the idea that the extension cord can only last 1 or 2 or 3 years and they literally burn out. When I have an extension cord that my dad bought in 1958 that I still use, and it will never burn out, ever. I have light bulbs from the 1950s that will never burn out. So this idea that everything became disposable was an economic province that was designed.
Of course it was. I mean, that we've been trained by it. Marketing departments do that. But anyways, let's move on.
Go on.
So last prediction.
Your
on
last one.
My one is, I think the word that everyone loves now is blockchain. So blockchain startups. I think right now, if I want to do something with blockchain, it is too hands-on, I need to code, I need to know how to code using the blockchain, etc., etc. I think we will now see what I call, or maybe someone else has called it before, blockchain as a service. So we will see apps on the blockchain that people like you and me can use and build upon. So we'll see that, that GUI, the graphical user interface, and not be dealing with the code directly. So I think we'll see pragmatic examples. This is not a hypothetical example, but something pragmatic. Hey, use the blockchain to confirm your identity, for example. Use your blockchain to confirm your land records, etc. I think we will definitely see more blockchain use within the banks. This is something where when I said I've traveled 21 cities this year. It was prevalent all along that banks are not just sitting idle. They're looking at blockchain. They're finding their own use cases, how to use that technology via private blockchain or the variants thereof, and solve some of the problems that they're facing. Companies like Ripple are doing a fantastic job on that. So I think we'll see more blockchain startups come up, offering us the app layer where regular users like you and me can actually use it. Blockchain as a service. There'll be some pricing models. You pay for it, you sign up for a plan, and you get to use some application that's built on top of a blockchain. So that's my number 5.
Now, Faisal, I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to be surprised not only who winds up doing that, but where in the world they wind up doing this. Do you think that the rest of the world is ready for the fact the innovation is probably not going to come from the usual suspects?
I don't know. I really don't know. I was seeing some documentary and it said, there are 10 million plus Java developers and less than 10,000 blockchain developers, and bulk of them happen to be in the US. So I don't know. I don't know where the innovation will come from. I don't know where the first kick-ass test case will come from, but I feel it's a level playing field. There is no advantage that US has over anyone else. Senegal just recently released a cryptocurrency which was incorrectly named as, that the cryptocurrency is released on the blockchain, which everyone ran with. But, nonetheless, here's an African country that actually released, the central bank in Africa, in Senegal, released the digital version of their currency, which was kick-ass. I mean, how many countries have done that? None, right? So I feel it's a level playing field. I don't know which company or which country or which region will take the leap in it. The United States certainly has a high probability of doing that, but then so does everywhere else in the world. And it all comes down to regulation and what sort of catalysts will do. Dubai, for example, the Dubai government has just released 11 challenges, which is under the accelerator program. They've even put funding for it. They said, we've got $33 million. Here are the 11 challenges. Solve them. It would go without saying that at least 5 or 6 of them are some things where are some places where the blockchain can definitely be used, etc. So we'll see. We'll see how it comes out. We have a few minutes left. So the one thing I wanted to ask you, and just to wrap up, Brian's top 5 was voice, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, rationalized IPOs, and accelerated economic activity. My 5s were obviously voice, where I concurred with Brian, better KYC, the adoption of Bitcoin, real-time payments and small value transfers, and lastly, the blockchain. So Brian, one last question. What is something that everyone is gung-ho on, but you hold a opposing view? One item that comes to mind.
I would say the most hyped and will be the most hyped that will not come to fruition to anybody's really.
And it has to be 2017, right? So.
Yeah, 2017 is virtual reality. I think this idea, if you were to read all of the things that were said about virtual reality in 2016, and it's all coming along, and there's these stealth startups, and wait until you see it, and you'll see how great it is. I think what's going to happen is when it finally does arrive, it's going to be a day late and a pound short. I think you're going to be sort of like, well, that's nice, and you kind of put it aside. My children have had access to virtual reality for quite some time, certainly early versions through PlayStation 4. And I was worried about it. And, just like any dad, I don't want them to become VR. I got a thing against VR for some levels. So understand I'm a bit biased. My thing against VR is I don't think that's where humans need to be for any appreciable long period of time. I just don't think it will serve humanity or that individual for any long period of time, period. And 10 years from now, I'll use this against me, but I believe that in the arc of human behavior, we don't need to be tied up into just a goggle world. Augmented, that's a different thing. But virtual reality was so hyped in 2016. I would go to Sand Hill Road. I'd be sitting down with some of the finest minds, and all they wanted to talk about was VR. And I said, let's talk AR. Well, it's not as pure. And I'm like, what do you mean not as pure? You don't like life? I mean, you guys are pretty wealthy here. I mean, you can get anything, do anything. You want to go all artificial? So no, reality, there's way too much dumb money. And I'm not talking about the guys on Sand Hill Road specifically, but there's a lot of dumb money chasing this when its result is not going to be there. So I think that was an overhype. And I think at the end of 2017, we'll start realizing that other things were more important, especially after iPhone. 10th anniversary, Faisal, 10 years.
Wow.
10 years
Think
of
about
iPhone.
that.
I mean, imagine what the world was pre-app. And again, it didn't come out with an app. There was no apps. It was like, yeah, you want to program it, make a web app. And imagine what the lifting of the economy, the whole economic model. I'm saying we're going to see the same sort of economic lifts, by the way, in local economies. So, that's one of my equations. But anyway, think about how many trillions and trillions of dollars, millionaires, billionaires that were made. I know some of them. I know some app developers that were there early on. And one individual made $17 million and retired. And he's actually doing the next thing. He's doing farm to table. He went into farming. He gave up programming. He just went into, and he's an old guy, that Wall Street guy, and he has 4 careers pretty much. And this is his 4th career. But he became a programmer early on. I can't tell you who it is, but he profited very handsomely on an early app, sold that app, moved on, and said, I should be able to get decent eggs and milk just locally, and built that near a big city, and is doing probably $1 billion, maybe $3-4 billion in sales to just a few dozen markets like Whole Foods and a few mom and pop markets in his near city area. Very proud of what he's done because everybody else in his family, quote unquote, retired and didn't do anything. And this guy's entering into another career, and I don't think he's stopping. So yeah, VR is overhyped. What about you, Faisal? What do you think?
So I think the whole thing of the disruption of banks. Banks are going to be disrupted by fintech, and they're going to break down, and it's banks are going to crumble, and banking is going to be chopped liver, and every fintech company that comes up with a product is going to take it. That I think that prediction that it will come in really early is not going to happen. I think banks are here to stay. I think they have the end say. They will buy some of the companies that are aiming to disrupt them. They will maybe use their technology, merge with them, partner up with them. But that disruption that we were talking about in banking has been overhyped incorrectly. Has been and even that disruption, that definition of disruption within the banking is not accurate in my opinion. Feel free to differ, but I feel that that's not going to happen. I think banks are going to be very much at pace and at peace as well. I think the profits that they're making will continue to do so, and the dent that was so promised by that fintech world in demolishing banks is not going to happen. So that's my prediction.
I got to agree. I think there will be bankers and banks as long as there's organized governments. Banks are a creature of politics and regulation. As long as political systems are at play, we're still going to have banking systems. For better or for worse, you can be the judge of Western society, whether it's helped or hurt, the Enlightenment. But I agree. I got to say this about banking, though. The banking we're talking about is not going to be the banking that we thought of, say, in the 1990s or even most of the 2000s. I think the banking is going to look different. And I think idea that millennials
your word processor was different, your clothes were different, your cars, your music was different. So, why not banking?
That's exactly my point. And that's why when people prognosticate onto the future, they always give this sort of weird thing that everything is going to be white and slick and everybody's going to be, flying cars. Listen, the future is going to look like the past. It's going to grow organically. It's going to be ugly to some people. Listen, millennials are going to bank just like their parents did. The reason they're not banking right now is because they're at a different stage in their life, like most people are. When they get older, they'll be banking. And the banking will look a lot different.
I draw parallels from Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, and the way it showed Los Angeles, and I don't know what the year, 20 something, etc. It's nothing like that today, right? I mean, we thought that would be the way, but it's not like that. So, the way we are thinking of, how banking would be and how the disruption would be, it's probably not going to be like that. It's going to change for sure. It's going to wear a new outfit, be it a new venue, the interaction, etc. Everything is going to change. But then someone will, try to juxtapose, say, well, this is exactly the disruption I'm talking about. Well, if you take the definition today, I don't think so. That's true. So I think banking will remain as is. Like I said, the menu will change, the colors will change. There'll be some lipstick on the pig, but at the end of the day, it'll still be a pig.
Yeah, but it's cute with the lipstick, a good shade of pink. I got to say this. The rate of change, to cap this off, the rate of change is accelerating. It's gonna be surprising, probably a lot more surprising than 2016. There's some things that I'm going to be working on that I hope will be part of those surprises. I have a number of irons in the fire, and I may be linking up with people that otherwise people would be shocked that I've linked up with. And I think it's going to be an interesting time. As we stand today,
I agree.
As we stand today, the future is open to you, our listeners. I mean, you guys are going to be changing this world. And I got to say, we really appreciate you listening. The fact that we've been going on for how many years, Faisal? How many years have we been doing this?
It is now a little over 2 years. Or is it 3 now? The third year is starting.
But, I think we're running into 3 years.
But I'll tell you something. We started with five listeners. Now we're in the tens of thousands. I think on a good day or something like 18,000 listeners. On a bad day, it's, I don't know, 7,000-8,000 listeners. And so it depends. But we certainly are very, 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 very grateful. And just to sign it off, the predictions, they're really great. But also, it's also good to measure up. So I'm going to put a calendar note at the end of the year for this year, for 31st December, and we will revisit these, 5 predictions that we made and see how.
I think it's important. I think it's important. It's a humbling experience. We talk about things like they're facts. These are futures that we're all going to invent and create together. I want to do it with you guys. I want to reach out to all of our listeners. Contact me, Faisal, Mike. You got crazy ideas? I want to hear them. If there's nobody else that want to listen to them, tell them to me. I want to hear them because I think 2017 is going to be your year. Whoever's hearing what I'm saying, make it your year. Don't be a victim of what everybody else is saying is going to happen. If you heard something that if there's something we didn't talk about that you think should happen, tell us about it. We'll talk about it the next show. You start telling the world about it, start building it. Even talking about it is the beginning of building that. And I'm going to try a little experiment here because we are talking about voice. I'm going to try it on Alexa first. Alexa, Happy New Year. Alexa, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey Siri, Happy New Year. Oh, they don't like me today, huh? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. May your resolutions be firm and your breaking of them be joyful.
There you go. We got 2 different personalities. So we are beginning 2017 with voice. I promise you when we end 2017 or begin 2018, there'll be a new voice, and I can't wait to show you.
Thank you, sir. Well, folks, that's all we have for today. We will be back on the air next week. Till then, have a good one.
Thank you.